Hey everybody, and welcome to the Nightly Grind. Tonight is December 15th, 2017, and this is podcast number 66. So we'll jump right into it. Yeah, the nameplates are fucked up. I'll fix it in a second.
Unborn. Look, my wife's vagina was right here. And I was like, as much as I want to share, I love you guys, but
So we'll jump in with my favorite piece of news of the week, and that is that PC Gamer named Divinity Original Sin 2 as their game of the year, which I think it deserves. What would be your game of the year?
Silence.
I wanted to play Hellblade. I'm kind of sad that I didn't get a chance to play it.
Yeah, it looks really good.
I heard it was
Yeah.
absolutely fantastic. So my game of the year would have to be
A game you didn't play.
I didn't know you were gonna drop this question on me. I didn't study.
Somebody didn't do their homework.
I didn't study at all. I got a lot of fun out of Overwatch this year.
All like 4 weeks we played it.
I played Overwatch for a lot longer than 4 weeks.
It
It's been out for a year and 2 years now.
That came out.
No, I don't think it did.
I think it didn't. You're right. It came out last year. It came out last
2016, yeah,
year.
May 24th, 2016.
Fuck.
So Torrent's not even.
It's okay. You can play a game a lot in a
What
year
you
that
got
you
this year?
is old.
Bitch, I thought we were gonna do the end of the year next week.
We still can.
No, yeah, I didn't study.
You don't have to answer.
Let's
You
see,
can
what
pass.
Came out this. All right, I'll wait until
I don't know
come
what my
back.
game of the year. I think
I'll go through-
Divinity might be my game of the year. I really like it.
I didn't get. Divinity,
It's fun.
so-
It's really fun.
Divinity is definitely my game of the year, just because it filled that void that I haven't. It was the type of game that I haven't seen since Neverwinter Nights
Yeah,
and Baldur's Gate, and I love those. I played
Yeah.
those like crazy. So Divinity was like nostalgic, but also fresh and new. I loved
you
it.
haven't seen that type of game in a while, so it's cool to see it be brought out again and done well.
Mhm.
Shadow.
I got nothing right now. I have no idea. I can't even think of anything that came out this year. I mean, Divinity is good. I'm
Yeah.
not saying it isn't.
It doesn't have to be the game of the year.
The issue Divinity had was the same thing I've joked about is that we played like 16 different
Yeah.
we had like 16 variations of campaigns, and I don't think we got farther than the second chapter.
Yeah.
So, for how great the game is, we never actually completed it. So that to me that limits the
Sure.
aspect of how great.
Well, that's partially based on everybody else's schedules too. We had a different campaign with certain people when certain people showed up, and when 2 out of the 3 showed up and somebody else jumped in, we started another one.
Yeah.
You know. So.
Yeah, it can be tough that way. It is a really fun game to play though as a group, which I really appreciate.
Yeah.
I like playing the Forest.
That was fun.
Enjoyed
That
that.
had got an official release, right? So is it officially released or is it still in early access?
I don't think so. I think it's still an early.
Last I
access.
know, it's still in early access.
Jeez,
Jeez.
Torrensol.
What, man?
You're over two.
These games weren't in early access for 6 years.
He's gonna name
Its
PUBG
its
next.
initial release date was May 30th, 2014.
Shit, I didn't get it till this year.
Well, PUBG is getting a
I-
1.0 release on the 20th, so they will officially release this year.
PUBG's
Yeah,
all right.
it's not a game of the year. It's barely a game at this point.
See, now you guys had a different opinion of it.
Oh, I like
6 months
playing the
ago.
game. I think it's fun to play. It's
I
broken
think
though.
The concept
Yeah.
of it's fantastic. It's that the game does not function the same way every time you play it. It seems, and that's to me a major drawback of it, and that's what makes it really frustrating. So
Well, just wait. They'll get loot boxes soon.
Who knows?
Very,
Maybe Star
They might.
Citizen Alpha 3.0.
You laugh, but they might.
well, like I said, we got the 20th. They're allegedly going to be releasing information on the Squadron 42, which I'm assuming we might actually start seeing early stuff on that, which would be interesting.
We've got some information on Squadron 42 today.
Kind of.
I was being.
Facetious.
Yes.
We could jump ahead if you want.
I was gonna say facetious, but I didn't want to say that. It would be the wrong word. You guys know. That doesn't mean what you think it means.
We can
dude.
jump ahead if you'd like. Since what was
No,
your game of the year
that's
failed
right.
miserably.
Both.
Every attempt you've had so far is still.
Yeah.
We're waiting
It's
for the
failed for
third
everybody.
time.
But I didn't get any of the new games that released
Yeah,
this
I
year.
didn't enjoy
I didn't.
Battlefield enough.
But
Battlefield
I
didn't
played
come
some
out
games
this
that came out years ago.
Battlefield came out last year. I don't think we even really have touched on many games that have been released.
Well, I would consider. I'm just like considering like a year, not on in this calendar year, but roughly in the last year. You know, came out in November of last year. So
This is the first year I put
year
more
and a
than
month.
20 minutes into Minecraft.
yeah, yeah, Minecraft,
I mean, like I said, there wasn't.
I got hooked on Minecraft.
League
this
of
year.
Legends.
You got hooked hardcore on Minecraft. League of Legends.
I made some good changes this year. I'm impressed with the game right now. So let's move on.
You're a fucking fanboy.
I love the game. I can't help it.
It's like, it's getting better, dude. You've never stopped playing.
It's been ups and downs though, and this is an up. Payday developer Overkill has revealed more details about the newly announced The Walking Dead game, which we discussed last week, even though I wasn't able to do anything because we were dropping so many frames, which seems to have been fixed, by the way. There will be 4-player co-op. It's a first-person shooter, obviously, set in a post-apocalyptic Washington, D.C. You and your 3 friends will go up against zombies and humans alike as you strengthen a base camp. So you recruit people to come into your base camp, you build it up, that sort of a game. Like a base builder, where you have missions outside of that.
Is there PvP?
I don't think so. I think it's just co-op. Yeah, just co-op where you fight AI humans. Yeah.
All right, that's fine.
You choose between 1 of 4 player characters. Each has their own special abilities. They have skill trees, and they each have their own story arc. So that's kind of neat. You can like choose between stealth or run and gun, depending on your mission and how you want to do it, which is kind of cool. Looks like there's going to be a lot of melee weapons in the game. Maybe melee focus. It's hard to tell right now, but definitely going to be a lot of melee weapons. The game is split up into a number of missions and raids, which help you get supplies and extra survivors to help build your base. They're expecting the end of the year next year, it seems like. Fall/end of the year.
Fourth quarter.
Are we excited for this?
Sounds interesting. It sounds like next year's really gonna have a lot of focus on co-op.
Yeah.
So
It sounds cool thus far. I mean, it's hard to tell. It's the Payday developers, though. And they've done co-op well before.
they do go very well. So
See, now it makes me laugh because you said the whole you can do the stealth versus the run and gun
Mhm.
type thing. And every time, I've never played Payday, but I've watched enough people play it that every time they do multiplayer and they're trying to sneak in, you got that one jerk who's just like, yeah, let's do this, who does the run and gun. So
That's
I'm
usually
curious,
about-
There's
They
always
do it any
there's a
better.
Leroy Jenkins in
But
everyone.
right? But it's still the Payday developer. So I'm wondering if they'll actually do something different about that, or
I think a lot of
not.
the time it has to do if you go in as a group of 4 or not. If you go in a group of 4, you can say, all right, we're going to try and do this stealth, at least in Payday.
yeah, we're gonna try it.
Don't take your
Okay,
heavy
guys, we're gonna do-
armor. Don't, you know.
Here comes Bone wearing basically level 4 body armor and like a tie. And he's like, they won't notice. Nah, and the bank won't notice.
You won't notice the saw on my back.
I'm just here just in case something goes wrong. Yeah, man, something goes wrong. Nobody notices the guy wearing the full fucking body, the bombs, walking into the freaking bank. It's so it'll be interesting. I mean, it's they know what they're doing. They generally have done well in the past, so we'll see. Now, the question I would have is that everything seems to be DC based for them, because Payday 2 takes place
is
in
it?
DC.
I didn't notice.
Yeah. So it should be interesting to see how much they're just going to reuse existing property, they already have in the games.
Assets.
Yeah, using that's it. That's the term I was looking for and could not find. Thank you, Dorn. How much assets they're using? They're just going to recycle and throw, like, this is, destitute Washington D.C. Which honestly, there's parts of Washington D.C. that you really have to want to do much to make it look like a zombie apocalypse.
It's not hard to make it look
Well,
You never
destitute.
know. They might say They
Yeah.
might say this is all new from the ground up.
Yeah, they could take pictures and take them in there and be like, wow, these are already been, who did these in the develop team? They already really made it look dilapidated or, bad. And yeah, they're like, no, we just took them this morning and just had them developed.
That's just a picture.
But, yeah, we actually had to clean them up a little bit. Make it
It's
look
just
believable.
RFK Stadium.
Yeah. So, I mean, but it's like, it should be interesting, but I wonder how much of it, if it's going to be like open world or if it's going to be like a Payday mission where Payday 2 set up right now. Get stuff going. I'm
Yeah.
drinking coffee. Payday 2 set up right now where it's like you have a central hub and they've actually redone the entire like base. The base is gigantic now for like your hideout or whatever. So I'm wondering if they're just going to take that and like reuse that same asset where it's going to be like your base, your survival area, and then you'll do missions just like you do in Payday, where it's like you're loading into something else and it's like a very, very closed aspect. So it could still be interesting depending on how they do it, and if they add like the zombies in and stuff like that, it could be interesting. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
I think it has potential at the very least, knowing the developer and the world that they have to work with. So the big news with Star Citizen, which we sort of hinted at, is that Crytek, the creator of the CryEngine, which Star Citizen was using, has sued Cloud Emporium Games, who are making Star Citizen, over now
And Robert Space
Yes, and
Industries.
Robert Space Industries. Over now unlicensed use of the CryEngine and breach of contract during the development of Star Citizen and Squadron 42. There's a whole bunch of things in the filing brief that they submitted. I'll try and go through a few of them. It was only supposed to be using the CryEngine, and now they're using Lumberyard. And I think they're using only Lumberyard now. I don't even know if they're using CryEngine anymore.
Yeah.
I thought originally they were switching fully over to
They
Okay.
were supposed to be only be using CryEngine.
Did you watch the
I
Leonard
didn't. I
French
don't have
video?
enough time. Sorry.
No.
Fill us in. Yeah. Fill us in.
Our favorite copyright attorney, Leonard French, went over the whole thing. Basically, here's what happened. Crytek said, look, here's what we're going to do. We're going to help you get crowdfunded for Star Citizen by doing all your animations and stuff for you to present for your crowdfunding. What you're going to do is agree to give us updated source code at the end of every year, period, which means if you take our engine and you improve on it,
bug
better it,
fixes.
you share that with us. We get fixes, but we do this work for you ahead of time, and it works out for you. So that was the agreement. The second agreement that was in there is they're only allowed to use it for one game period.
Mhm.
That's not multiple games inside of a game. That's not. It's one game period. So the second they decided they announced they were going to do Squadron 42 as its own standalone single player game, they were in breach
Right.
of contract. They haven't given Crytek anywhere near any updates that
I don't
they
think they've
said
done
they
any.
promised they were going to do.
I don't think that they've given
Yeah,
any bug
yeah, as far
fix
as I know.
annual reports.
And here's the thing. So they've been over the past 5 years. They've been very nice about it. They said, "Look, we did all this work for you. You've made $60 million. Boom, you've made $100 million.
$150 million.
Boom, you've $150 million." They've been really nice about it
Yeah.
up to this point.
Well,
This is
But
just
now
one
they're
side.
just-
And this
they've
is just one
gone
side of the story.
Fucking
Yeah.
yeah.
this is-
We haven't seen the counter.
There's been a little bit of information leaking out. Part of it is they're saying they bought themselves out of their license potentially, so they're not
Well,
you know,
here's the thing.
need to do any of it.
Lumberyard.
They're not using CryEngine at all.
Amazon
Yeah.
Lumberyard.
this is the
Amazon Lumberyard is built off the Crytek
Mm.
engine. So what they did was they worked on it, and then when they wanted to get out of their shit with Crytek, they just switched to Lumberyard. So all their assets and everything become Lumberyard assets, and Lumberyard is separate from
Right.
Crytek. I mean, they've already gotten their licensing and everything squared away. So basically, they just dipped
There's
into
from the aspect of the original contract, yes, they're going to be liable for that. But the trick is that we have to figure out if they've ever made a severance pay or any kind of pay to that to Crytek at some point in time.
Because
Well,
they were
here's
in
another
big
thing.
trouble. I know there was some.
Crytek's
Yeah, they
got
were in some
problems.
huge issues. So I think they bought themselves out potentially at one point in time, or something like that. I don't know the fine details.
That's,
And they haven't all
the-
come
the-
out yet either.
they haven't
Yeah.
released it. I was going to say, but I remember there was a lot of huff puff from the when they originally switched over to Lumberyard, because there was a lot of people that were really pissed off. It was like almost 3 years ago now. I think they actually switched over to Lumberyard. It's been
Yeah, I remember reading that a
piece of
while
time.
ago.
And they basically said one of the main reasons they switched over to Lumberyard was because, quote unquote, or I don't want to say that, like, not quote unquote, but my memory suits me, is that where they wanted to take the game, they could not do it within the existing Crytek engine. And Torn, you're shaking your head like that to a point where you're dealing with a different set of infrastructure. And so, yeah, you're right. But the main issue is that, say Crytek did do all that, Crytek's only going to be really responsible for the money they made on the original CrowdSurf. Anything they've made outside of CrowdSurf is not going to be tied to the same contract, because the crowdsurfing was it's separate, not part of. So any money taken after crowdsource is
Well, that's not necessarily true, because if they're in breach of contract with Squadron 42, then any money they've actually gotten, like when they announced Squadron 42, if they seen a whole bunch of money come in and stuff, they might not have got that had they not used those assets.
But it's the
produce
aspect
Squadron
that
42.
the contract might have been tied towards the actual Kickstarter and the elements that were tied to the Kickstarter. You can't, it's a fine point. That's something that would be argued in court.
But we haven't seen anything produced by Robert Space Industries or CGI yet.
Yeah.
So they'll be when they produce something for court, they'll counter all those claims.
Listen, more than likely it's going to be one of those things where it's going to be settled underneath the table, and there'll be a sum of money paid towards Crytek, and more or less Crytek will probably end up getting to the aspect of tying to any upgrades to the engine are going to be in Crytek's name. You know what I mean?
Well, here's where the real problem was. They were supposed to put the Crytek logo. One of the deals also was they were supposed to put the Crytek logo and all the assets that Crytek uses, the WYs, I think is one, and those three things were supposed to be on the game, period, as this part of the deal. You use the Crytek engine, and they took it out before they switched to Lumberyard. They removed it, and they weren't displayed.
Well, you're using a different. Even the key thing here, I don't exactly know a lot of the details on Lumberyard. It might be based off the Crytek engine. If it is, Crytek still technically has ownership of it, or is at least it's somewhat to the point. Because if it's using Crytek code, and it's based off the Cry engine, then it's Crytek property. That's the way the copyright would work. So I'm thinking Lumber might be based off of it, but it may not be the same. It may.
Yeah, but I think Amazon did a deal to make the Lumberyard out of Crytek, and it
I
became.
don't know enough the details about all that crap.
See, that's the key thing here, though, is that whenever you're using software like that, even if you're a company and you're taking the base Cry engine and turning it into something else, it's still Cry engine it's the building blocks.
It feels like they switched to Lumberjack because they got or Lumberyard, I mean, because they had a way to keep their assets using Crytek, but then they got out of their deal with Crytek.
Yeah, it's a freaking mess either way.
We're speculating.
Yeah, it's
we're
a huge
speculating
speculation.
with that one way or another.
Like I said, it's speculation until we get, but this is the information we've been given as far from Crytek's side.
Yeah, that's not
We're
speculation.
speculating.
One of the other things is they were supposed to be advertising CryEngine's use in game, which they removed. So they're pissed about that too.
They weren't.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, there's a lot. We're dealing with a lot.
Those are the three things. Those are the three breaches. They used
Remember,
the 142.
When you take out,
remove the
we also got to realize that the scope and spec of the game has changed dramatically from the Kickstarter. When the Kickstarter came out, it was just going to be a Wing Commander-esque type of game, and then after the literal buck ton of money that they basically had thrown at them, Roberts kind of opened up and thing. We've already discussed that a long time ago. So we're dealing with a dramatic change in what the scope and the premise of the game was to begin with. So I mean, that more than likely Roberts could even argue that to the point where, yeah, we'll do that. We'll allow you to tie it to the Squadron 42, and we'll still show the Crytek stuff on Squadron 42, but we're not going to tie it on the actual Star Citizen open world thing.
It did come out that Crytek was having problems, though. Like, there was developers that had gone without pay because they were close to bankruptcy. And this may be the way they're trying to rebuild their...
And if that's and you always overshoot whenever you're doing any kind of litigation like this. You're not going to go, we just want our name back on it. Now you're going to be like, pay us $60 billion. And you're always going to end up asking...
I don't think they're shooting for the whole 150
Well,
million.
not.
I think they definitely show that they got a lot of money because of the work they put in.
at the end of the day, that will, like I said, we'll see what happens, and we'll see.
And let's
Like,
not forget, they're still claiming this is the biggest Kickstarter campaign of all time. So they're still calling it a Kickstarter campaign after 150 million.
to be completely honest, all of the stuff I get from them, and I'm on their newsletters and all that jazz, I haven't seen them refer to the success of Kickstarter in a long time. So I mean, they really haven't really been hammering that point.
I know, but they still call themselves the biggest Kickstarter campaign of all time.
A lot of third-party sources refer to them as the biggest Kickstarter, so forth and so on. And then they usually do so with the same exact sentence where they're going, "But it's not out yet. They robbed us of all our money." So there's a general breakdown between that. So it's like, I mean, Roberts, most everything I get from them, the main thing I get is they're still shocked at how much people are sending money to them.
Yeah, I can't believe people are still buying things. It's crazy.
Jesus Christ! It's like we're up to.
I haven't seen them say stop sending us money.
Yeah.
We're good.
They
Nobody's
continue to release
right
things to set for sale.
No. Don't. I mean, shit. I'm part of the what is it? Shroud of the
Avatar.
Avatar, and they're constantly hawking for money.
I turned off their emails a long time ago.
I get every time they have it. I at least get 1 or 2 emails a month about the new patch, and oh, by the way, you can go here and buy cosmetic shit, or stuff like that. So they're constantly hawking for money. Everybody does. It's just business as is. If you're in that market, you're doing. And I still get shit from Blizzard on a regular basis for shit for Warcraft. I don't even play the game anymore. Where it's like, we released a new floating panda winged mount with a halo. It's $19.99 if you buy it. Some stupid shit like that. So I mean, every game company does.
I think Crytek's got
getting $16 a person for anybody that's actually playing the game.
I think they got a stake. I just don't know how much of 150 million they have.
Well, either way, it sounds like more than likely, if they pushed against them, what they're going to end up really wanting is they want their name on the product. So if the product succeeds, that they get the recognition, or for.
Already on Lumberyard though.
It's a CryEngine. Yeah, well, if Lumberyard is based on the CryEngine, then CryEngine would still have to be tied in somewhere. So I mean, that's the problem. I didn't know that. We'll have to research that because I'm curious to see how.
I think they only have to say Lumberyard. I don't know that they have to say Crytek on.
But you can't. If you built something, it would be Lumberyard, but the engine is still the fundamental building block. Now that they've deviated enough from it where it's something completely different, that's something different. But the coding might be the same.
Here's what I think. I think they got a lot of money at RSI, and they're like, well, we basically rewrote all this code. We might have started with Crytek, but by the time it got to the end, we had put way more into it than.
I don't know.
Yeah, but see that yet again, we have to ask the question: Did they throw Crytek a lump sum of money 8 months ago, a year ago, 5 years, 3 years ago? You know what I mean? Did they? We don't know. You never know what happened. You don't know what happened.
No, I think in the suit it says that it was they will be paid based on the outcome of the. It was we'll work for you now and we'll benefit from this later type thing.
Yeah, I understand it's like you work for now and you benefit later type of thing. But like I said, there's a very, very unless there's if the contract states as such, then like I said, we'll see. We'll see what Roberts says on this, and we'll see what happens. I don't think Crytek's out to hurt. I think Crytek just wants credit for what they've done. Well, you don't want to cut the nose to spite your face.
Wait, how are you going to get credit for something that's already on a different engine? No, there's no point now. You're not going to get Crytek on your product now. Now it's in fact of we did all this work and we lost sort of compensation for what we've done, and they violated that contract. There's going to be some kind of.
But see, the main issue here is that they can come back to it and like say that Roberts 3 years ago, before they switched out, threw Crytek X amount of money, and Crytek went, okay, we'll take it. All right, and then they switched to Lumberyard. And if Roberts can show that the engine is adapted or increased to a point where it's no longer recognizable as Crytek, say it's jumped to the 10th degree, or like, let's say Crytek was A and they're on like N or O or P or somewhere like so far ahead of where the engine is right now, they could argue in court that it's no longer viable for them to give Crytek information because now basically they developed the engine to a point where it's beyond where it was originally.
Another breach of the lawsuit was when just a little while ago when they brought in the voiceover IP tech or the video over IP tech.
Yeah,
with
yeah,
head,
the mouth movement thing.
that
Yeah,
new they gave them source code that they agreed they would not share with any third parties.
and they also
Was also
they
there
did some
also
YouTube videos or something like that where they showed some of the
for the
code.
Bug
Yeah,
Smashers. Bug Smashers, which they still do weekly, they showed some of the code up on the
Yeah.
fucking screen, which is a violation of the
Yeah.
fucking Crytek agreement they contract.
There's an issue with that, and there'll be a standing for it. But at the same exact token, it's going to be an interesting aspect one way or another, because you're dealing with a game that basically, if Chris Roberts takes a dump in the city park in a porta potty, there's probably going to be 5 different PC gaming magazines and forums or blogs online that are going to be documenting it. So anything that has their name tied to Star Citizen at this point in time, even though it's kind of like died down a little bit, it's advertising that these companies can't be anywhere else. I mean, Crytek is a very, 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 very well-known game engine. But realistically, if you talk to most people, they know for Crytek for the old joke where no matter how new the computer is, you benchmark it on the original Crysis, or you on the original. What was it? What was that? Their first game?
Crytek
Well,
horror game. Is that what you said?
No, it was their first FPS where everybody. It was like the one that would it was the computer killer.
Crisis.
Yeah. Crysis. Yeah, the original Crysis. So it's like, I mean, a lot of people know that for that. I mean, the engine is extremely well used, and it's a lot of properties. But they make all their bang off people basically using the building blocks and then building inside the system. Like I said, it could be an interesting lawsuit because
there's
like I said,
5 or 6 things they did to breach contract that were brought up. We haven't heard any counter to the suit yet.
Yeah.
Roberts might come out and go, "Here's the money, go
Or
away."
this is all completely wrong,
also,
and this is why.
There's the way they presented the Leonard French when he went through the thing. The way they presented it, there's presented 2 ways here. One is a contractual obligation, and one is an what would Crytek have benefited from this being a part of their their name? They're going for a contractual part, like, so you were supposed to give us this amount of money or this amount, and we're going to get that. But there's also, we would have benefited as a company because of all the publicity that you got using our assets that we built for you to do this. So there's also, on top of just the contractual obligation, they're also going for you're screwing us out of being a better company.
Well, that's therein lies there's a very, very difficult crutch there. And the crutch is this is the thing. I mean, I'd have to see the exact wording of it, but it could be, you could counter argue that while the assets were given to them and they were using the engine however they were, the development of the game had reached a point where they had far over exceeded the initial usage, and it's to the point where they were there's documented aspect of where you can go back 3-4 years ago. And when they were originally talking, it's like, well, this is what we were doing, but we completely had to break everything down and rebuild it because we needed to basically. They remember back in the day they were talking about adding the bit mapping in, where it's like the entire ship is completely 100% built, where most other game engines don't use that. Yeah. And it's like, you could argue that while you may have the starting blocks for the engine, you used Crytek, but when you completely tore it apart and then rebuilt it to do something new, you are no longer using the same. You've changed.
That's what I said at the start. That I feel like it's probably they did some work on top of the original Crytek that they could say, this is the same thing we started with. Yeah, that's why you're not getting this new source code.
And the problem with that is that Crytek can still come in and go, well, we gave them the push, and they kind of went downhill and ran with it. And it's like they might have some actual run with that, but the problem at the end of the day is going to be,
look, the argument has to be either that we've gone so far past the original Crytek engine, we're not even talking about your code anymore, or that they were trying to transfer to the Lumberyard to get out of this, and so the code was being changed in the back end to go to Lumberyard, and they didn't want to share that.
Well, they could, if that's
Crytek would have known immediately had the Lumberyard code been fucking.
But this is one of those things where they could sit down and bring in some programmers and go, hey, this is, if that's the case and there's actual.
That's what it probably will be.
But that's the case and there's actual malice involved, where they could go in and show that they were deliberately trying to get a breach of contract or break the contract to go to a new
That's
engine.
hard to do, I think.
That it could be shown. But if Roberts can come in there, drop code on the desk, and go, this is Crytek engine code as it exists right now. This is the engine we're using right now, and they're completely different. There may be elements in it that are identical because no matter what, you're dealing with a programming language. You know what I mean? That's going to have some similarities. But if they could show that the engine they're using has developed further and way faster than anything Crytek's doing, then Crytek's going to have to show that somehow Crytek was in the process of doing that. And it was and that therein lies the issue with that problem. You could even Crytek get some credit for it, and they might have to pay.
You remember when those developers jumped ship because there was friction between Chris Roberts and them?
There was a lot of issue back in the day.
Come back to haunt him. It'd come court time.
Yeah, but see, the thing is though, you have to ask the question of how well is that person going to act as a witness in that aspect?
They signed non-disclosures, I'm sure.
Well, the disclosures may not take place in court if it's a sealed court case, because then it doesn't matter, because the person could still come in under closed circumstances and still, testify. But the problem is that we don't know the whole situation. We know what some of the people really were loud about, and they did so as much as they could, probably without worrying about breaching the NDA that they more than likely had to sign. But at the same token, we don't know if that might have been an issue. There was a point, you got to realize, like 3-4 years ago, where the game basically, you could see it was going in one direction, and then it completely stopped, and it went in a completely different direction.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's one of those things where if Roberts can come out and say, we basically realized that the Crytek engine hit a wall, and we could not get over that wall without completely redeveloping the system from the ground up, which is what they basically talked about.
They have talked about that a lot.
And it's
a lot of work into it.
And if they can go back and go, we were having these issues, and they could even go, we went to Crytek and asked them, hey, can you help us jump this hurdle? And Crytek might have told them it can't work with the current element. And then they're left with no other choice than to go back. Like I said, they got this all in writing, and we don't know what Robert could come down and drop that right now, and then Crytek kind of they're caught at a loss.
I guarantee you they're working on it right as we speak. There are lawyers working on this right now.
But it's just, this is another one of those things where it's like you hear about this like every 6 to 8 months, where somebody goes after Roberts. And it goes, well, they did something XYZ and we don't like it and we want to come after him. And almost every one of these cases is completely gone.
Well, maybe he's into shady shit.
Maybe. It's the aspect. I don't know if it's a shady shit. I'm going to take the devil's advocate and defend Roberts a little bit here in the aspect of, I think
he could have waited to get that fucking.
This is the thing.
Until after he fucking released the game.
It's irrelevant.
All right.
It's irrelevant.
Wrap it up.
Wait, hold on. I'll wrap this up. But it's like, this is one of the. I still think there's a lot of animosity towards Chris Roberts and what is being done in Star Citizen.
What? I don't know that motherfucker.
Well, no, I'm not saying you personally.
In the industry.
All right, I think the industry has a lot of animosity towards him because he is the first one, and a lot of other people have done it and come out with shit. Let's not lie. Kickstarter has had a hell of a lot more. Oh my God, what did they do with the money I gave them? Then, oh my God, I'm very happy with the product I received.
True.
But, I think there's a lot of people in the industry that really don't like him, and the reason they don't like him is because he showed that if a company has the balls to do at the level of what they've done,
you don't need the middleman.
They've shown it, then it completely removes the need for a developer, and that really probably has to scare the shit out of companies like EA and Activision and companies like this that really don't release things on their own anymore. Their main goal is going out and buying development companies and having them do the work for them, and the Activision and EA release, generally reap all the benefits for it. So, I mean, Roberts, if Star Citizen succeeds on the level that he's envisioned, that's got to scare the shit out of the industry, because this is a guy he's been in the industry, he's worked in the industry, and he's done stuff, and now he's doing something that nobody thought could be possible.
Yeah, I don't know.
On a platform that we all joked about it. He said it during the original Kickstarter. None of the AAA companies are interested in this because they don't feel this genre has anybody that'll play it. And now you can't throw a rock without hitting a goddamn space exploration fucking game. I mean, they're coming out of the woods works like
without hitting a space exploration game. It's true. Yeah.
And that's all because of what Star Citizen's done. So, and almost every one of those, except for a few that have some hardcore followings like Elite Dangerous and such, you know, they're not even remotely trying to go to the scope that Star Citizen.
All right.
So,
No,
we'll,
yes,
we'll see.
Star Citizen's
All right.
huge.
That was a half an hour at
All right,
least
enough of
on
that
Star
shit.
Citizen.
Enough of that shit.
Hey, that's important. Fucking
No,
I mean,
it's a
that's
big deal. It is a
banger.
big deal, and I'm interested to see what their rebuttal is going to be, because I think they'll have some solid points probably to lay out, and it's going to be, I think it'll be very nuanced. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with it.
Well, a lot of that money is going towards their legal
Yeah,
team. Let's
yeah.
not lie. Like I said, this is the first time they've jumped, and I mean, Star Citizen, I think, has won most of the cases that have been levied against them. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
So the biggest news probably of the week was that Disney has reached an agreement to buy 21st Century Fox for $52 billion, which is an insane amount of money. I mean, when you think about the assets that Fox has, it doesn't include Fox Sports or Fox News, among a few other things. Those are the two big ones. Which I was kind of surprised about, that Disney didn't want to buy Fox Sports since they have ESPN. I figured they'd want to go. I would want to get it.
ESPN is like.
Well, maybe I was thinking maybe buttress it by getting some other sports channel, but maybe they want out of sports altogether. Maybe.
It could, as I say, it could be that Disney went there and looked and went, ESPN's failing. Maybe we don't want sports. Maybe
you gotta keep the sports. Keep
You know
it.
what?
We'll pay you to keep it.
let's stick to the shit that we know we can make
Yeah.
the money off
They-
of. You know.
Well, they've already got other sports channels and stuff, though,
Who,
don't
yeah?
they? Like, I know they've
Yeah,
got
ABC,
ABC,
ESPN.
and
They probably have a few others that I'm not thinking of.
You know what though? But that is a
ESPN
good
2,
point.
ESPN
That
3.
might- Saul's 100%.
No,
Disney,
Disney
yeah,
has
yeah,
ABC.
Yeah, but see, Saul might be 100% right there, and the reason I strike that is that they may be the main reason why. Because if they got ABC, if they got Fox Sports, they might get
Well,
antitrust.
CBS
remedies.
has NFL on it.
They do.
I mean,
Fox
they're
Sports
gonna.
does.
I saw somewhere where they could potentially own 40% of the entertainment market. That is insane
what
amount
it
of
is.
market share.
What's his
That's ridiculous.
what's his name?
One way or another, they have a.
What's the old guy's name that owned Fox? Or
Mercer
name?
or
Murdoch.
Murdoch?
Yeah.
Mercer.
Rupert Murdoch said that it was done because Fox's it's gonna be like Fox stockholders will own like 40% of, and they're like building a new empire basically.
They're gonna start from scratch
Well,
again.
they're-
Well, not from scratch. but-
Disney is gonna be doing its own streaming.
They're gonna have a majority share of
It's-
Hulu. We're gonna have X-Men and Marvel back together.
American Horror Story.
They're gonna own a,
They're gonna own
and that is a little bit concerning to some degree. I mean, they're gonna own a serious
Murdoch
amount of the
said
movie
it does.
industry immediately.
Murdoch said it was a leverage for
I would
Fox.
say almost 50%.
It's crazy. Like that's an insane amount for one single company to own.
Really
Yeah,
close
it's
to
crazy.
it. And the main thing is solidifying they have Marvel now. They own Marvel. It completely opens up
Yeah.
their.
The only thing they don't own is Spider-Man, who they sort of lease. Because
They're gonna- I guarantee
Sony
you
has
it's
Spider-Man.
Oh,
Sony has,
that's right. Sony
but
don't-
Sony
yeah,
has
Sony
like a
don't
deal
give
where they let them use them. So
Sony don't-
maybe they'll buy Sony too.
I don't think.
That's possible.
I mean, $54 billion is
I would-
crazy.
But I wouldn't be surprised if they go, "Hey, Sony, you want a few $1 million for the rights to Spider-Man?
Look how good of a job we're doing with them.
We'll make that money back. We're already making that money back tonight in Star Wars
Seriously.
sales, so we don't really give it.
How much is Star Wars
Yeah,
going to pull in?
that's
They're
right.
going to pull in what, $1.5 billion? It wouldn't surprise
Yeah,
me
probably
if they
least.
pull in $1.5 billion on that
least.
movie.
See, that's what Sony should come to them and go with the Robert Downey Jr. thing, which it's like you can use Spider-Man as much as you want to, but we get 10% of whatever movie sales.
Yeah.
you get for Spider-Man. Whatever Spider-Man's in there, we
See,
get it.
Now they're getting ready to come out with the Dark Phoenix or the Phoenix Saga with
Yes.
X-Men. And so this is going to be interesting if, they've already got some of it filmed and Marvel Studios comes in and says,
They're going
no,
to
No.
they're going to redo the
Stop.
whole thing.
just stop what you're doing.
No, so this is the
They're gonna start
greatest
over
thing
again.
now. And Saul, you should know this. This is the greatest
They
thing.
can't screw up
It's-
Phoenix Saga again.
No.
That's
Again.
such-
That's the
Yes.
second
Oh.
time.
Yes.
It's such a blow.
Man.
It,
But see, Saul, you're forgetting something. You're the
She's
comic book
a
character.
huge
You
X-Men fan.
doesn't matter.
yes, X-Men
It doesn't. It really
my
doesn't.
favorite comic book. Yes.
It doesn't matter. Comic book readers have been indoctrinated into it was all a dream. It's a multiverse. This is this existence. They can reboot the entire series while that one's still in theater. And it won't
The
matter.
Flash comes in.
Because they'll just-
The Flash comes in and redoes it all.
No, but what's interesting though is that X-Men, when X-Men was under Fox, it always kind of felt kind of disjointed, kind of like, okay, we're gonna give you a hint as to what's to come, but not really leading to
Yeah.
another movie, so that it can be something random and spontaneous and different, and all that kind of thing. As opposed to Marvel Studios, that's like, we have this big picture in mind, 18 movies, and they're all gonna come together, and this is how
We
they're
have the
gonna
next
do
20
it.
years of movies
So
planned.
It's gonna be really interesting to see if they can do that with X-Men. Start to give it more of a story that's just gonna continue. Like,
They could
for
pull them in
several
for the one after Infinity War and start from there.
Yeah, well, that's
You know?
the main thing is that I think that's the biggest concern right now is that there's a lot of people that are X-Men.
they
I
can
can-
do Avengers versus
Yes,
X-Men now.
They could do a lot.
I doubt that. Well, listen, that's the
Poor
thing.
Iron
I doubt
Man.
we'll see that.
Poor Iron Man versus Magneto.
Avengers versus X-Men was an actual
Yeah,
series.
yeah.
It was
Yeah,
phenomenal.
Well, that's the thing is that they have the book open now. They literally don't have to worry about all these pages that are redacted because we don't own the rights. Now they can go to town. But I don't think they're going to do that. I don't think they're. I hate to say it this way. I don't think they're that stupid. I don't think they're going to deviate from what they have planned with the current Marvel universe they have rocking right now. I think they're going to build something up with X-Men and go in a different direction and have it's two
Maybe.
separate things. And then they could always do a multiverse transition thing.
They would have
You know
to
what I
at
mean?
this
Yeah.
point, because there's already 2 Quicksilvers.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
people are incredibly
I mean-
freaking excited for something like that. Plus, when is
Yeah.
the Star Wars Marvel crossover going to happen?
Oh shit!
Star Wars, Marvel, X-Men, Avatar.
It won't work.
Avatar.
What else do they
Yeah.
own that's huge?
I hate to say this. I don't think it
No,
would
no,
work.
it wouldn't work.
I know every fanboy has that is their wet
Simpsons.
dream
The
type of
Simpsons.
Archer.
Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Danny DeVito runs in and bitch slaps Darth Vader.
Disney now owns Deadpool. Which
Yeah.
is not going to be a Disney property. That will stay a Fox property. Like, they're not going to publish it under the Disney name.
No, I don't. People have an issue with that because Disney has always had a history.
Yeah, they'll just keep it a Fox property and because it's going to make money, so they don't care.
Miramax Films, which was like anybody that knows anything Kevin Smith did back in the 90s, it was always under Miramax. Miramax is owned by Disney.
They own a shit
And
ton.
usually, if they were doing a movie that was, but it's yet again, everything is owned by fucking the goddamn mouse. But it's one of those things where it's like whenever they had a movie that was going to be an R-rated, they would always release it under a different thing. Disney's money might have made it, but they would release it under a third party, so you wouldn't get the rap for it. Remember, Disney bought ICP at one time.
How do you buy
Okay?
them?
No, they did. They
Just
they
the
bought them
record
out.
deal? Okay.
They bought a record deal and then realized what ICP was and was like, "Ooh, well, you can't release that with the mouse on it." You know, it's
They got makeup on. Let's buy it.
They look like clowns. They're kids. They're not robbing the fucking McDonald's.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So that was a huge deal.
But I'm telling you right now, man, this is going to be really interesting because Disney's getting really, really close.
They're getting massive.
And they're getting their own streaming
Well,
service.
they're
that supposed to be
they're
opening
essentially
up,
buying
so
Hulu. I mean, they're going to be huge share in Hulu at this point.
Disney's making their own
I think
streaming service.
my guess is they're going to use
Compare-
Hulu instead of just starting from
They're gonna-
scratch.
they're
They'll
gonna
just revamp
they're gonna
Hulu.
take-
Is my guess.
They're going
Yeah.
to revamp, which is what might be a good thing because I'd really like. I love a lot of the properties Hulu has. I just don't like.
Yeah, and you
commercials.
can
And
pay
I
premium
watched-
and still get commercials. It's the
Commercials.
stupidest
What are
thing.
those?
Yeah, it's stupid. That's when I tried that because I tried Netflix and I tried Hulu and I'm like I like what Hulu has, but it's like premium. You know, the $10 a month there was like $5 at that time, and it's like after 5 minutes it's like commercial. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I was obsessed with Hulu when it was free, and then as soon as they were like, "Nope, now you have to pay us money," I was like, "Nope, sure
you
don't."
pay money and you still get commercials.
And it's that's the thing. I pay money so I don't
That's why
get
I'm paying you.
advertising. That's the reason I give
Yeah.
money. So yeah, I mean, so if they, who knows? But I said I think Disney's really going to be in the next 5 to 10 years, depending on how they do this. I mean, everybody. The problem with this crap is it's standard. The main problem with this crap is everybody is happy with what Disney is doing. If Disney keeps making good property, and I'm just using Disney as a general because let's face it, they're not really they're providing the bank for Marvel, but they're not really the creative lead, but they're allowing those teams to do what they're doing and make the fantastic movies they're making. But the problem is that they're getting too big, and when they get too big, they're going to start it's going to be an issue. And my concern is that if they keep making really, really, really good products, people are going to turn a blind eye to the fact that they own pretty much all intellectual properties. And that's not.
I can't wait for the Always Sunny in Philadelphia Disney ride.
That would be awesome.
But it's still an amazing thing. And I mean, shit, Fox, bang. Shit, I wish I was a Fox shareholder right now because you just got a good.
That's what Murdoch said. Murdoch said it was because Fox would own 40% of the.
Do they own The Simpsons?
Fox does.
Yeah, but I'm saying does Disney now?
Yes. Yes.
Fucking Christ, man! Disney owns like all animated products in
They own
America.
everything. Yeah.
Is Archer owned by Disney now too? Holy
they,
shit!
they own everything, man.
They own everything. And the sad thing about this is that Comedy Central technically still owns South Park, but South Park is streamed through Hulu now. So I wonder how much they own if they're going to actually have any.
All of it.
I don't know that just because it's on Hulu doesn't mean Hulu owns it.
I understand that, but Hulu has the rights to broadcast it. So,
Yeah. Anyways.
So that means like
It's crazy.
Very
almost
crazy.
It's a
all
huge
animated
acquisition.
features out there is now owned by.
Look, they're obviously not afraid of monopoly fucking laws. I mean,
Yet again, it's the
I'm sure it would have come up by now if they were worried about it.
The main thing this is the aspect of it. The main thing with monopoly is people have to complain about them having that domination, that control.
Well,
Alright.
we already have laws in place for monopolies.
Yeah, but usually it
We've
bases
been
the
using them
aspect that
so
somebody has to
liberally.
actually go-
That's how it works.
That's it.
Listen, you make laws so you don't have to worry about those things anymore. You don't have to babysit your fucking congressmen and your senators. You fucking,
No. But that's the aspect of it is that they don't have nothing to do with that. It's a case that has to be brought. It's an antitrust case. Somebody has to go to court. Actively go against them. It's not like it reaches. It's not like there's a mark somewhere, invisible mark, where it's like Disney's right here, but if they buy one more company, they're over the mark, and now they can be. It's not like there's some.
it was a percentage, wasn't it?
I don't know.
There's a percentage, and yet again, it still boils down to somebody has to put the antitrust against them.
Well, the government can
was
start it.
laws.
The
Can
government
start it,
can do
yeah.
that.
Legislation was made back when Clear Channel Communication was found to own 47% of
Yeah.
whatever. Do you remember that? They made laws
And then
about
Bell
monopolies.
Atlantic when it got broken up, or AT&T when it got broken up, and then it just came back together again. It's a different market now.
The
but
majority of the
But
it is.
wait a
Yeah.
minute, hold on. Disney doesn't have Warner Brothers or Cartoon Network, though, right?
Yet.
yeah.
Or
Well,
like Nickelodeon?
No, Nick
I mean-
is
I don't
its
know.
own thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean they don't have a monopoly on it yet. Or
No, but
whatever.
it can be.
It's not-
It can be. They can be bullies essentially, even if they're not a monopoly. They can
That's
still
the
be
aspect.
bullies.
It's the whole idea with antitrust and the monopoly aspect is that if a company gets to a point where it can start using its own presence to completely eliminate competition, that's when it becomes a problem. You know what I mean? I don't think Disney's going to do that, and the reason is because the market is set up as such where they're not going to. The main trick against monopolies is that if Disney was to come out tomorrow and go, guess what? Every Marvel movie that gets released is the ticket's gonna be $1. $1 to see any movie. All
Okay.
right. If they were to come out tomorrow and do that, if they were to come out and say Hulu is going to be 99 cents a month, unlimited streaming, no commercials. All right, that would be grounds for Netflix to come against them as an antitrust aspect. Because what they're
How?
doing-
Because Hulu used to be free.
But see, the aspect is that what Disney is doing is since Disney has so much money, they can undersell their product They can
Even then,
undersell
Yahoo
something.
View is still
Yeah, it'd be
free.
tough to do it with a
Well,
streaming
yeah.
service.
But if that would be the grounds for an antitrust monopoly lawsuit. That would it's Netflix and other.
Yeah, if you could lower your costs so much that nobody
It
buys
puts
your
everybody else out of
competitors'
business.
products, you're dominant. Yeah.
But see, therein lies the danger with a company that can get that big, where they can deliberately undercut their profits in certain areas to put other people out of business. You know what I mean? And they can undercut and undersell, and then basically go, we can produce this for cheaper. And even though we're going to lose 90% of the profit, we're losing money by selling it so cheap.
But
We know
most
that we're going to price out our competition. They can't do that.
companies when
And
they
that competition
acquire
goes away, and then we don't have
Okay.
the competition anymore.
We got way
most
off.
companies when they acquire some, well, most companies when they acquire something, they whore it out for a little while and then they kill it.
Disney don't do that.
Yeah, they're gonna make big bank.
Like I said, Disney's got no reason to undercut anybody. Disney's going to make as much
Yeah,
money as they can because people are going to be willing to spend the money. If they were to come out tomorrow and go, "We're releasing the next Marvel, whatever fucking set of the Avengers thing they're going to do, and we're going to charge $5 extra for tickets," they would still sell the fucking tickets like they were never
Potentially.
before. Because
You're
So, I
confusing.
mean-
You're confusing me. You just said $1. Now you're changing it to $5 extra. I don't
No, I'm
understand
saying-
what's going on.
Better be a double feature.
Do I need to get like a fucking do like the old Ross Perot and bring out a cue card and shit so I can point to stuff so I got a visual aid?
Well, you could do like Bob Ross and paint me a fucking picture.
But I mean, they have no reason to undercut their market. Well, let's be honest, they really don't have much competition as
They
it
don't
is.
want to undercut it. They want
DC's
to
been
own
doing
it all.
everything they can to trip over themselves. So I'm surprised they just don't have posters.
And it's gonna be cool to see what comes out of it. I think.
I'm surprised they don't have posters. The next X-Men movie is just going to be, hey, we can't fuck it up as bad as DC.
Oh, it's gonna be his another Wolverine cameo, but this time it'll be an Avengers movie.
You know, that does bring up a good point, though. You never know. We might actually. I'm sure there's storyline. I know there's a storyline.
Who's gonna be the next Wolverine?
But I'm saying, you never know. You might see Hugh Jackman and Picard come back and revise their roles. You think Disney couldn't go up to either one of them and go, "Here's a stack of money"?
Hugh Jackman's getting old. For
He's
Wolverine,
done
he's
with
getting
the
old.
Wolverine thing.
You see him.
Yeah,
You see him in the
what?
last one. Have you seen Logan yet?
Wait.
He's
Yes, he
he's
does.
looking
What's
his
he gonna do? Push
he's
himself out
looking
of
his
the
age in
chair?
that movie.
He was trying. They were trying to.
It
make
was
look
the
better.
old man Logan
yeah.
storyline, though.
Yeah, but I mean, I know there's storylines where there's an old. They have the
Yeah.
older.
Or like they could just get him into a fucking. They could just put him in a computer and make.
I mean,
him look young.
as far as Logan's concerned, that Wolverine is done.
Well, shoot, did you guys see? Because
Yeah.
Wolverine played both of him and his clone. He looked good as.
Was that
No,
him or was that a
don't cut
computer
his
generated
blood.
him?
I think some of it was.
Yeah, it could have been entire CGI'd him.
But yeah,
They
yeah,
CGI'd the Hulk, come
I know
on now.
exactly. I know
They CGI'd the
exactly
Hulk.
what. I know exactly what. I always want to call him Picard, and I can never remember his name. Or Gurney
Patrick
Fowler,
Stewart.
because
Well, they have the new
Patrick
ones.
Stewart.
They have the young ones now. Because they
No, but
went
it's
back
like
in
one of the
time.
things where it's like they both come out and said, yeah, they ended. Obviously, they did because spoiler alert, they both died in Logan. And if you haven't seen it by now, I
It's
don't
been
give a shit.
over a year.
Oh, I can't believe you told
Man.
me that. Oh my!
It was so
God.
unobvious while you were watching the movie.
It was-
I
I
never
know.
saw it
You
coming.
monster!
The trailers alone gave it away.
You monster!
But I know they both come out and said, yeah, we're not doing it again. The characters are done. Blah 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 blah. You tell me right now, if a Disney executive came up to them and went, "Here's a check for fuck tons of money. We
He's
want you to
done.
come back and play it," that they're gonna go, "No, I have too much moral pride not to redo that." Fuck you. They're gonna be like, when do we start filming?
Let's move
You
on.
know, let's make sure
I don't know.
doesn't die during
Let's move
filming.
on.
I don't know. No.
PUBG is apparently performing poorly on Xbox after its release this week. Probably the most unshocking news of all time. An unoptimized game on PC is running poorly on an Xbox. I'm stunned. So yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about, Bone. Xbox was supposed to be the most powerful gaming console that's
It
ever been
is.
created. That was even putting PCs to shame, according to their
Oh,
way
I
they
didn't
were
see
marketing
that.
it.
Yeah, that's a lie.
They
Maybe
got a lot
like
of people
mid-range
talking about how
PCs.
It's the most powerful thing that's ever.
It is a
been
very powerful
created.
console.
I don't
It's like,
see why-
wow, man, Torrance
so many
computer's like
problems.
8 years old and it's on
Fortnite,
par
man,
with
it's
fucking.
fine.
Man, this thing cooks when I check my email.
Battlefield Bad Company 3 was leaked by a YouTuber by the name of Almighty Dak. As the next in the series, potentially. It was also sort of walked back. We'll get into that. It's a rumor.
Though,
Battlefield Bad Company 3. No loot boxes as of now. Vietnam and Cold War era weapons. Includes larger vehicles, but will be a tighter game compared to like the larger, open warfare Battlefield games, which is sort of what Bad Company has always been. This has subsequently sort of been walked back, even by the guy that did the leak. DICE Sweden may be working on a World War II Battlefield game, which may be the next one. While DICE LA may be working on the Battlefield Bad Company 3, which is unique because DICE LA is usually the people that work on the post-release content.
It's like I have been told by the people in charge that we are not making another Battlefield.
Yes, exactly.
This has been a lie. False.
I would love another Bad Company. Bad Company 2 is my favorite of the entire series.
I liked Bad Company because it was somewhere in between Battlefield and
it's smaller scale. You don't have the ridiculous plane taking over entire map stuff. It really is the last Battlefield game that I enjoyed. I have not terribly enjoyed the last few.
Well, they didn't add in all the, I want to say, Call of Duty extra crap, where it was like, like we have to have somehow do kill streaks and like add in all the extra stuff, and it was just like a really basic.
And it was a little bit bigger.
Yeah, it was a fairly decent sized map, but it was that the maps were designed in such a way to where it really focused gameplay. Even Battlefield 1, I know you're not a huge fan of it, Bone, but the main issue I've had with Battlefield 1 is, don't get me wrong, the game is beautiful.
It's a really good looking game.
The ICE, I think it's the ICE engine or whatever engine they're using is a fantastic engine. But the maps are almost too big.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing to see they can do it, but it ends up getting to the point where it really just diffuses the player base over the map to a point where it really doesn't feel.
Well, if they're not giant, then the vehicles are worthless, or way overpowered. Well, that's why the Bad Company works, because they use vehicles in a smart way and design the smaller maps for them to work within, but you can still run around and it feels like you're finding people the entire time. So that's why I thought that game worked really well.
I still think vehicles in Battlefield really need to be modified. I don't care if you make them powerful, but the more powerful they are, the easier.
But you don't need a jet on every single. That's backwards.
Porn, something poop.
Pornsel has to poop.
Has to poop. That's lovely. So we'll run through the last few real quick. Call of Duty World War II sold 5 times better than Star Wars Battlefront 2 in November. 4.4 million units versus 882,000 copies. If you had to choose, which one would you choose?
I would still choose Star Wars.
Even with the loot boxes.
Star Wars.
Wow.
Star Wars. I was completely and utterly disappointed with that Call of Duty.
I absolutely despised the Battlefront. I thought it was a terrible game when we played it that weekend. I did not like it at all.
I liked it. I thought they really, really did a damn good job catching the feel of what Star Wars is. It's a shame that the engine is. And I think that's been the general consensus from a lot of the reviews and the players is that they really did a good job with the game. They just did a horrible game purchasing.
Yeah, it's a really shitty loot box system.
But between the music and the sound and the feel and the way the characters the talk between the characters and everything, it was damn good fucking game. It's a shame they just fucked it up.
I wasn't a fan either way, so it didn't matter.
As for Call of Duty, that game just was a pile of shit.
You're so biased against the Call of Duty series, it's ridiculous.
No, I was biased. Download it and play it.
No, but look, 800,000 units for Star Wars.
No, it's not a heck of a lot. Those are the top 2 selling games of November. 4.4 million all the way down to 880,000.
And 4.4 million is really
it's
not
pretty
that much
good.
compared to
Yeah, but compared to 800,000.
But compared to last year when they had what was it? Infinity or something. What was the name of that one?
Yeah.
That one was terrible. Like compared to this, so they really picked it up compared to last year.
But see, that's the thing with Call of Duty, though. You got to realize that. I mean, the Call of Duty maps we played during the beta, were almost identical to what we were playing back in
Yeah.
Call of Duty 4 almost 10 years ago.
Yeah, no,
All
really.
right, the game
That's
really hasn't evolved much past to what it was, and I'm
No,
not
it
knocking it.
works.
There's
Yeah.
there's types of games that work. You know what I mean? But it didn't feel like it definitely didn't feel like it was something out there where it's like, yeah, I want to spend X to $60
Yeah.
to buy
It's a
this
game I might buy when it's $10.
Yeah, and even then, I probably, and like I said, it's not. I do have a bias against Call of Duty, but it's not that. I don't enjoy
Yeah.
that type of game as much
Yeah.
as I used to. I'd have more fun playing like 5v5 and Rainbow Six.
We
which
don't
I-
really play any Twitch
Yeah, I haven't
games
played
anymore.
Twitch shooter in a long time. I do enjoy Twitch shooters, and because I feel like I'm better at them than regular shooters. But yeah,
Well, watching you play fucking Rainbow Six, I'm not surprised with your
I'm all over the place.
full automatic bullets
I'm
going
used to, like,
everywhere.
Putting
I
3
shoot
rounds
everything.
on target and killing a person. Not
If it moves, I'll
Yeah.
shoot it.
So I mean, it's but either way, I mean, it's still 4.4 million is a large number. But when you really break it down, I mean, this is a game series that 8 years ago, 7 years ago, I mean, 6 years ago, they were selling 5 times that amount. I mean,
they
it
hit
was
like $1 billion on the first weekend that with like Modern
Yeah.
Warfare 2.
So I
Didn't they?
mean, if for one way or another, you really, as a company, I would really, and even then, with all of the backwash and the horrible press that Star Wars got, they basically sold. They still sold a fair amount.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So I mean, it's when you're number 2 and you've sold that. I mean, that shows you there was really no other competition on the
Yeah.
market. So I mean, yeah, people might have went, what new first-person shooter am I going to get? Is it going to be Call of Duty or the Star Wars game that Reddit is like screaming bloody murder
Yeah.
about?
Hey, it worked.
People
The
might-
campaign worked against them. So
So I still can't, like I said, the aspect that if Battlefield is EA is working on another World War II game, that makes me
Yeah.
ecstatic. Because if they're working on a newer modern version where it'd be cool if they did a Battlefield where instead of just picking like one genre like World War II, if they did like something where it was like a decade spanning, say like 1940 to 1970.
hmm.
You know what I mean? So you had a huge different variety of maps in there. So it wasn't just all World War One or all World War Two or future combat, but you might have like a World War Two map where you're like doing classic Midway, and then the next map you spawn into, you're doing like remember that Vietnam map where it was the napalm fucking
Yeah,
ridge
that was a
line,
good map.
like
Yeah.
where you had that like complete change of not just genre but weapon setup, vehicles. That would be awesome. Because that would be just a really cool like Battlefield like anthology or something where they like took the best maps from all the Battlefield games, even jumped in the 2142
jeez.
maps, which they had some.
That's a bold
Oh.
choice. They're not doing that after how badly the last Call of Duty did. They're not going
You
into the
don't
future.
knock it.
I guarantee it.
But I'm saying anthology.
Yeah,
I'm saying
yeah.
a game they brought the best out. But tell me that wouldn't be an awesome
Could
game
be.
to do, because then you could have your World War II fix on certain maps, and then go to your like more modern, Battlefield 2 type maps like Assault on Kirkland or whatever, or Karkand or whatever that one map.
Strike him.
Strike at Karkand.
Hmm.
And then go to freaking some of the Battlefield Bad Company 2 maps. And it was just, I mean, think about that. You had El Alamein from Battlefield 1942 way back in the day. So, I mean, I think that they definitely could do something like that. And I think that would invigorate, if not really, really,
$300.
Nah, I wouldn't do it that much. It would just have a fuck ton of DLC. And
I just want to see them bring back actual destructible environments. After they got
I'd
rid
love
of
to
it
see
after Bad
that.
Company 2, I want to see it come back. And we'll move.
Remember how they used to talk about, the limitations of the gaming engine?
They just didn't like the way people were playing the
They
game.
no longer- Well, I didn't like it when you were in a fucking APC running over the goddamn
It was
building.
fun. Oh man, it was
Bomber in a
awesome.
house trying to fucking hold territory. That was
Just
the main
nowhere.
thing I
It's
loved
hard
about
for them to
Battlefield.
hide if there's no building for them to hide in. They're just
Well,
in the
that
rubble.
was the main thing I loved about it. In Bad Company 2, you could sit there with a squad and control like territory. If
Yeah,
you were really
yeah.
good. Like me, Baba, anti-Torn, when we could actually get into play, we could take over areas and dominate. And it was awesome to have that, like, especially in some of the city maps where you had like street
Yeah, yeah.
fighting and constantly trying to push it out. And then Bone would get an APC and flatten the entire neighborhood, and it would be boring as fucking hell from that point forward.
All right. So Nvidia unveiled the Titan V recently. The price tag on it is $3,000. It is not a gaming GPU though. It's made more for research and AI and machine learning, that kind of a thing. So who's picking one up?
It's called Look What We Can Do. It's a Look What We Can Do.
It's
card. That's
made
all it is.
it's made for like high end researchers. You don't buy one for gaming. Alliance Tech Tips did get one and was trying to test it, and it was like it was no improvement over
They've
the
done that,
other
yeah,
ones.
but they've done that like with every NVIDIA test card they've got because they did that with
Yeah.
last generations. Because
The Nvidia, was it the XP?
whatever.
That's like the same
Yeah,
thing.
they
It's
had, like,
no
the-
improvement over the Ti.
They're designed
They're
for
not
heavy
designed
duty
for gaming.
coding.
Yeah.
Rendering. They're not designed for gaming, and he's even said that on every
Yeah.
generation he's had.
They
he's
have to
done
get one though.
test on. The only people that buy these are people that are doing this professionally or idiots who have way too much money and
Yeah.
want to
Oh,
show
look, I
off.
have a Titan V. Well, that's an enormous waste
Or
of money.
Linus, who just basically goes, "Hey, can
No,
you send me
they bought it.
fucking
They had to
30
buy this one. They spent
They had to buy it?
$3,000 on this thing.
Hey, dedication. That's
Yeah.
all I gotta say.
Final piece of news is the Stardew Valley multiplayer beta is coming out in early 2018. Hopefully it will go on sale during the winter sale, so a few of us can pick it up. And that's all I got.
That's it. Yeah.
Are we playing a game tonight?
I don't know.
Okay, well, we'll figure that out. We'll be back in about 5 minutes. Thanks for watching. If you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and like and comment and all those awesome things. Our info will be on the outro screen.